Well, greetings everybody. It's wonderful to be here with you again. And thank you Orchidia and the team for inviting us here to present to you today. I've got a wonderful colleague with me, Colette Bayer, and she's going to share some gems with you today during this session. But first, I want to share my journey into aged care. I spent 40 years in commercial aviation, never dreaming I'd ever be involved with the aged care industry. And yet here I am, 14 years later, 2,000 aged care facilities I've visited in person, resulted in these beautiful resources that we've built tailor-made for you. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them before we get into the final thing with Colette. During the turn of the century, I was overnighting in Hobart a lot, and I was in this hotel making a reservation for family who were going to join me on a trip. And as I was walking out of the reservation, I noticed a payphone on the wall. And to this day, I do not know why I stopped and took money out of my pocket and put in that payphone to call home, when I could have walked back to the company accommodation 10 minutes away and called home for free. But it was the delay at that payphone that caused me to hear the piano to start to play in the dining room. So I couldn't get my son off the phone quick enough. I walked into the dining room, saw this gentleman playing beautifully on the piano, sat down, ordered lunch and listened to his whole session. When the session had finished, I went up and introduced myself, told him how much I really enjoyed his music. And his name was John Sydney. Now, John was very well known in Hobart. He used to compare and run the children's program on TVT6 in the early days of television. But what got my attention with John was his style of playing. Now, I grew up in a family of pianists, and so when I heard John playing, his piano playing took me back to when I was young. And that dance stride, any well-played piano gets my attention, and John would be the best dance stride style pianist I'd ever heard. So I became very focused. I had a mother that played in dances. My uncle played like John Sydney. We've got no recordings of their playing whatsoever. So I became very focused on capturing this man's works, because once this generation's passed on, that style of playing's gone forever, and I wanted to capture it. So I made it my business to become a good friend of John Sydney. I funded him through the studio to record for my own personal collection. I wanted to preserve his music for posterity. Now, to cut a long story short, some friends of mine work in the local aged care facility. When they heard this music, they said to me, "Graeme, what you've got in your hands is gold for the people we look after." And they encouraged me to market it to aged care. Now, I had no idea how I was going to do that. Up until I had this little brush with the entertainment world, my whole life was aeroplanes and farming. But John sadly died in 2002, and he left me ownership rights to his works, because he said, if anybody's going to keep my music alive, it'll be you. I had no idea how I was going to do it. But that was the beginning of my journey in aged care. My wife and I went to Perth. We had a holiday with our daughter there. When she went home, I said to her, I'm going to go and knock on a few doors and see if there's some interest here in John's music. Now, I spent 3 weeks, a lot of emotional experiences in that 3 weeks, because, you know, when you've spent your life in a profession where you're treated with dignity and respect, and then you go and you want to present something to somebody, and people can be quite rude because they perceive you as a salesman trying to sell them something. So that was a big challenge for me. Not many, most people I met were lovely people, but I like people, and so I had a personal problem with this rejection that I was getting. So, but nevertheless, what pushed me through all that was I'd walk into these facilities and I'd see all this grey sitting around totally unstimulated, and that disturbed me, because I thought it wouldn't take much to actually fill that gap. And where I could talk them or convince them into letting me put a CD on, every time we put the music on, they sprang into life. Now, that whole experience ignited a passion in me to introduce this music to elderly people, because when they go into these facilities, they have nothing, but they got a load of memories. And if you connect them with the right music, they then while away the hours on a journey in their memories. And Colette's going to talk to you more about how that is done. While I was taking John's music around to aged care, I was continually asked for music to back the songs in these Olverscroft large print songbooks. They've been around in aged care for a long time. A lot of you are probably very familiar with them. But these requests I was getting for the music to back the songs in these books came from people aware of my affiliation with John's music, and they imagined his piano behind those songs. A lot of facilities were having trouble finding a musician that know these songs to play for their music activity. So I, being an engineer, you put an engineer in any situation and what he does instinctively is troubleshoot and problem solve. So I set about to solve the problem. So sadly John died in 2002, but a few years after John died, I had the good fortune to meet Barry Hall in Adelaide. Now, Barry had a similar life to John in radio and television. He used to run he was Mr. Music on the Channel 9 children program when Humphrey B. Bear made his first appearance on TV. Now, to you New Zealanders, you probably don't know who Humphrey B. Bear is, but I've got 3 children that grew up with Humphrey B. Bear in Australia. And it was a very popular kids program. Barry spent 20 years on radio, running the top-rated program, Choose Your Own. When I met Barry, I saw the solution. And so when I mentioned to Barry, I keep getting these requests for music to back the songs in the books. Barry enthusiastically responded to record the whole 381 songs in those books. So in over 2 years, we created this resource. Barry recorded 381 songs, and Olverscroft gave us permission to mention their name on the front and index the music to match the songs in the book. I've got a little video here. We can show you how the book actually works. Let's say we go to number 23, Clementine, okay, and then the corresponding song in the CD collection will take you to the second disc. Clementine will lead you to disc 2, third number down, number 23, and adjacent to that is 3. That's the track number on the adjacent CD. Now the idea is you take the CD out, you can fold the page back, you've got something nice and compact in your hand. It's got all the songs listed in the song with the track number adjacent to it. It's such an easy, versatile tool for you to use in your program. So that was the first thing we created for aged care. The genesis of all these resources have come from you. They're not our idea. What we've done is we've actually found a solution to solve your problem and provide the age-appropriate music. Now, one of the things I've come across in my travels is I'm very aware there's a generation gap with music. Not only a generation gap, but also a cultural gap, because we have a lot of people from overseas that immigrated to Australia, and they have no idea about the life the people they're looking after lived when they were young, and their tastes in music. So if you have a problem in selection and you're trying to work it out, any song in these books will suit your 80 and 90-year-olds, okay? Even if you don't play the music in there, at least you've got the song titles that you know that that's the music relevant to that generation. When we talk about the music being tailored to meet specific needs in aged care, when Barry volunteered to record this music, I said to him, just bear in mind when you record this music that most people exposed to this music will have some degree of dementia. And professional musicians embellish their music, which you and I enjoy. But for people with dementia, too much embellishment in the music is going to confuse them. So what I'd like you to do is to keep the embellishments in the background, keep the melody dominant and predominantly piano, because that was the instrument that was central to their life, with the sing-alongs and the dances. And Barry did a beautiful job of that. When you hear the music, it is perfect. As I was taking this music collection around to aged care, I was also asked for music for a later generation going into care. Now, I'm 73, I'm a baby boomer. We weren't piano centric, we didn't sit around the piano and have sing-alongs. But there's a younger generation going into care and their taste in music are different to my parents' generation. So I ran that by Barry, and Barry put together a collection of music, 200 songs from 50s, 60s, 70s music. It's all the music that was popular when I was a young teenager. The Beatles came on the scene in 1964. Elvis was popular. There was Chubby Checkers, Let's Twist Again.
The Seekers.
The Seekers, and Roy Orbison, Pat Boone, all those singers were popular at that time. So Barry again enthusiastically volunteered to record and put that collection together. When he recorded the music, again, talking about tailoring music to meet a specific need, I said to Barry, my generation were not piano-centric. We didn't sit around the piano and have sing-alongs. I said, when you record this, I want you to be full on Barry. Now, Barry's really clever with the keyboard. You'd think you were listening to an orchestra of different instruments playing. But Barry has applied his talent on the keyboard to make a very, very relevant collection of music for the baby boomer generation. Now, as I took that music around to aged care, they said, oh, but we need a songbook to go with it. And I thought to myself, I had no idea how I was going to go about putting a book of lyrics together. I was very aware of the hassles getting print rights for that many songs in a book, particularly songs from that era. And I actually tried to get Ulverscroft to do it as a sequel to the Blue and Red book, but they were not interested. And so anyway, I set about to put the book together. It took 18 months to get all the print rights for the songs, but we eventually released the book. So, and it's become very popular. But then as people got exposed to the book and realised this collection, the value of this collection for this younger generation now going into care, I kept getting asked for music for the pianist. They wanted a sheet music book. So I had no idea how I was going to go about producing a sheet music book. I mean, I just had no idea where to go with it. But through the music, I've met a lot of very interesting and lovely people. And one of those people happened to be Samantha Campbell. And Samantha used to be Sammy Woods on the Bobby Lim show in the early days of television here in Australia. And anyway, I was talking to her about my dilemma with this request for the sheet music for the pianist. Anyway, she says, I think I could do that. And so God has his way of sending his angels along just at the right time. And look, she did all this work voluntary. She put the music together for the 200 songs, beautifully written, in a easy play format, but we've included chords there so that the more skilled on the piano, they can improvise with their own style and their talent to play the music. So that has not long been released. We put our time when we couldn't travel around very much to aged care, we put that to good use and made that book. So we've got a wonderful collection. We call it the Green Book Music Collection, and it's tailored to meet that need. Okay, now I'm going to step back a little bit to my early journey in aged care with John Sydney's music. I began that journey in 2003, and I had an order from my colleague here, Colette, back in those early days. She would have been one of my first clients, and so she's a lady always looking, which I imagine people in leisure and lifestyle would always be looking. But it wasn't, I've discovered that hasn't been always the case. But nevertheless, she bought the music, and then a few years later, she rang up to inquire about the musical quiz and the Shall We Dance movement with music program I'd put together. Now, there's a lady in West Australia who is dementia specific in her work, and she rang to get permission to use John Sydney's music to put these quizzes together, because she said this would be the most relevant music I've come across for the work that I do. And I said, well, I'll do better than that. I'll work with you to put the quizzes together, and I'll let you have access to all tracks on all John Sydney's, and we'll tailor the tracks to suit the quiz and the Shall We Dance movement with music. So when Colette rang up, when people ring up and inquire about these resources, I direct them then to the collection of John Sydney's music. And Colette's response to that was, God, I've had John Sydney's music since 2003, and she started to share all the things that she does with his music. And I said, Colette, I've got to meet you, you know. So we organised a time to meet, and then 3 days before I met Colette, I rang her and I said, look, do you mind if I bring my cameraman along with me? And Colette says, oh, you can't film anything. And I said, no, I'm aware of that, but I want him to hear what you've got to say. Now, when Ian and I met Colette, we sat down at the end of the table and Colette started to talk. And in no time, both Ian and I looked at each other in absolute amazement. And we didn't say anything, but we were both thinking the same thing. This is absolutely amazing, the information and the imagination of what Colette was sharing with. So what I'm going to do is let Colette tell the story then from there, because that was really the beginning of this resource here, the Musical Armchair Travels. And we'll talk a little bit more about what it is at the end, or Colette may cover that with you now. But it is something very different to the music. It is actually a program. It's a guide. Colette prefers to refer to it as a guide. It's in 3 parts. It has a training DVD at the beginning. There's run time about 48 minutes, where we have professional presenters talk about the importance of music, and we've got Colette. We film Colette actually running a session. We actually stop it at times where she then comments, or things that manifest themselves in the session that we're filming. We stop and she explains and talks about how you can manage that. So it's a wonderful resource. The middle, there's a few pages there we call the guide, that steps you through the process of planning your own session. And then we've got 6 journeys pre-prepared for you, where we've arranged songs around a particular journey. Some of them we've gone and put extra tunes there for you to draw on, because the whole concept behind this is, once you learn how to do it, it's about you using your imagination and knowing your clients' travel experiences. Is that correct? I'll let Colette talk about it, because she's the expert. I jokingly tell people this is Colette in a box. Okay, we tried to capture some of that imagination and pass it on to you, so that you can pick it up. And anyway, Colette, you tell them a little bit about.
Well, first, thank you for having me, Graeme, and
our pleasure.
Yes, greetings to everyone across the seas. New Zealand is a beautiful country. I always thought I'd like to go there one day, because I love Switzerland. So I believe New Zealand has got a touch of Switzerland. Yeah. So who knows? It will happen. I always tell to my residents, oh, not yet. We are not there yet, which means we keep the hope of going and traveling around. Well, before I talk to you about this musical armchair travel, I'll go back to the books. This is the reason I rang you, Graeme, at the time. I wanted to have the CDs and other CDs and other things that you've done with it. And I did tell Graeme what I use the book for. I don't only play the songs, but I do use the songs for quizzes. I use the song for musical game. I use the CDs on the bus when we are traveling, because they are so relevant to their times. And most of my residents needed that touch, that connection. It is still a motivation to them, real motivation. The minute you put that music, something clicks. Any resident, the ones who you don't really think they are moving, you look at their feet and the feet are going, or their little hands, or even humming, but there is a response. And this is what it's all about, that we connect, we interact, we engage, and of course, we motivate them. The mental stimulation in every aspect of their life. So, coming from there, I talked to Graeme and Ian about the music, and I said, yes, I use it too for armchair travel. It has given me ideas of using some songs maybe from England and from there, I started to think, about my project. Oh, it would be great to have an armchair travel in that format. We do armchair travels. No rocket science. We're not revisiting anything. You all know about armchair travel. You do cultural days. You've got videos and DVDs and music too. But I was thinking having it in that format would be so wonderful. I'll just go through, for example, I've picked a few countries. The why I've picked a few countries for the travel, it's because of the interaction and engagement with my clients. Most of them came from Europe, and some have been on cruises. As you know, it's very popular cruises, but they've been on cruises, and also a lot of our musicals are from America. So I thought, well, I'll put all that together into a musical armchair travel. So if you had a week of culturally visiting London, England for the Queen's birthday, for anything that's to do with the UK, then you have at the end, to wrap it up, as we say, to wrap it up, all up, you have the musical armchair travel at the end of your week or your day or your few days or a fortnight, depends on what you are doing, wrapping it up in a musical armchair travel. And when you will have a closer look at it, it's good to have a surprise. I won't open it and let you discover yourself when you get the resource. You will see, for example, we start with England and we go to look at the patriotic songs and, like God Save the Queen. First song that will, of course, everyone will get into it because we've all come from countries that have been colonized by the British, just like my little island from where I come from. I'm from Mauritius. And of course, we used to have the Queen's picture in all the classrooms. We used to have Empire Day, not to forget the lemonade and the beautiful cakes on the day. Pleasure of going back to school. And when you talk to them about it, so much of engagement in the room. You can feel the vibes. So then we go from God Save the Queen to Rule Britannia. You bring it all that patriotic singing. And who else than Dame Vera Lynn to make it all happening. And of course, you do know that Dame Vera Lynn is very popular with them. So there we go. So the journey goes on. We go to Penny Lane with the Beatles. We go to the Lambeth Walk, Lambeth Street, and we go for a bit of the song. We also go to Tipperary. So London Bridge is falling down. We've got a lot of songs that we can tease from that journey. And I have to tell you, frankly, honestly, humbly, that all the songs from this collection were songs that the residents sang along with me and that I have heard during my 14 years of doing lifestyle and leisure. Nothing of my making up. So when I've listened to them, we've shared all these songs from the musicals, I had no clue. I have to tell you, coming from Mauritius, we are bilingual. So I'm both, as we say, anglophone and francophone. Means we have English and French. But we had a lot of British history. But we sort of stuck with the French. So coming from Mauritius, of course I know a few, but mostly we have that French speaking and French singing tendencies. When I came to Australia, I never knew about "Oh, I do like to be beside the seaside" and all these songs, Cockles and Mussels, and I heard about it, and we shared our stories. And this is the richness of this resource. It's all in there. I'd like to really pay homage to all these residents that have been singing with me. And all the songs in here are from them, basically. And I admit that they've taught me a lot. It's not, it's a two-way traffic. I always tell Graeme, music and the music and the activities that you do, ladies, it's all to do, it's a two-way traffic. Always interact, always engage. I call it tease. Tease, dig in, and you will see, you'll be surprised what they bring to you. And this is how this whole resource, this little magic resource, came into being. Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And when we put the training DVD together in this, we filmed Colette running a session, and one thing that really stood out for me was there was one lady, is it Moira?
Yeah, Moira. She was a name.
Yeah, and she was quite shy. And
very shy. Moira never really. She came to your activity. She'll sit in the corner. I can see her. She'll do like that, not even lifting her head, but looking and listening. That's what we call passive participation. But I knew she was there, and of course we, in every activity, you have to acknowledge everyone that's in the room. Acknowledge and include, even if they are from a distance. We do our documentation report, and we can put, let's say that Peter listened from a distance. Peter enjoyed it from a distance by his body language, tapping his feet, or doing this, or even this. We could know he was in the activity. They don't have to be like some of them, engaged and active. Passive participation is as good as active participation. So Moira just sat there, but I knew she traveled because I've been talking to them. That's one thing I'm always saying. You have to know the residents. Take your time and have one-on-one time with each of them, so you can have that recollection and make up a little sort of, you've got their personal life story, and you know how then to tap into it when you do your musical activity. So Moira, yes, I remember that.
Well, this journey that we filmed you doing started in England with Lambeth Walk.
Yes.
Then we went to Germany. Then we went down to Paris, under the bridges of Paris.
And why we did that? Because I had two German residents too. And they were amazed by, they just enjoyed having the chance to have Auf Wiedersehen and, some other songs that we got from Germany. Yes, Wooden Bar, and of course. And then, of course, Marlene Dietrich. La la down la 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 la. La 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 la. That one. And then we went to Paris. Though I did not have French people, but I had a gentleman from Seychelles. That's just to tell you how you tap into your residents' history and story, life story. They all had a journey. That's the wonder of working in aged care. So many people crossing your path and sharing their journeys with you. And that just brings us a positive outlook on life. Yeah. And so with richness of it, it's immeasurable, And so that gentleman was from Seychelles, but I know that he knew French and English. So that's why I went through Paris. Anyway, they all like Maurice Chevalier and Charles Trenet, La Mer, qu'on voit danser. And what are we doing without little girls? Little girls, you know that song, Little Girls. Something to do with Little Girls Grow Up, of course. And it's a nice little song by Maurice Chevalier. So I said to them, we haven't been to Paris, but what comes to our mind? And you'll hear Eiffel Tower. And he would say, Les Champs-Élysées. Someone else would say, wine, croissant, pain au chocolat. But they will tell you something about France. And then you know, you were amazed, because even if it's from postcards or from their family who have traveled, they know about it. There are iconic things that come to their mind, and you tease it out of them, and they'll tell you. So from France, then we went to Italy.
That's right. And I remember you saying, okay, now we're going to travel south to the beautiful Bay of Naples. and what's that beautiful island?
I did it on purpose.
You did it on purpose. And what Colette is illustrating is how you prompt them in a way that they don't realise that you're prompting them. And she said, now what's that beautiful island in the Bay of Naples? Capri. What's that beautiful island? And they all say Capri because you prompted them.
Yeah.
But you did it in a way that makes them think that they thought of it themselves.
Yes.
And
that's the way to go.
Absolutely. And that boosts their self-esteem.
Of course, and their self-confidence to say something. We are part of a group. And I'd like to hear your voice.
Yes.
So that's why I say, oh, Moira, I haven't heard you. Or Jane, I haven't heard you yet. You know, but you will tease that through that prompting.
Yeah. Well, I know Moira had been to
the grotto.
The beautiful blue water cave.
Yeah.
and tourists can only go there when the tide's out and they've got to go in a little boat and duck down. And Colette's explaining the grotto. And then we played, when she'd finished the narrative, then we played a very short Isle of Capri. And the moment the music stopped, Colette says, now who's been there? And Moira puts her hand up. And you can see Colette going over there, containing her excitement as she went over. She says, oh, Moira, tell us about it. And Moira says, well, we're in this big boat and we had to get into a little boat.
Yep.
And we had to duck our heads down really low. Now, the very fact that she's telling that story tells you that she's actually reliving the memory of that experience, which she's probably long forgotten. Now, I've been to Capri Island. I've seen all that. If I'd just walked into Moira and said, oh, Moira, I believe you've been to Capri, she'd probably look at me all confused. But that activity teased out the memory of that travel experience to the point where she could actually share it with the group. Yep. It was an amazing experience.
And I think through all this program of the musical armchair travel, it's one thing that we all do, and that's my motto until now. Live in the moment. That's a beauty. Just live in the moment and live it with them. Even if it happens that we know well that after, unfortunately, with the terrible condition, they might forget, they will forget, but living in the moment, Moira and everyone else on that DVD that day, they were back into time. It's like a time machine. Yeah. They were back into time. They probably remembered clearly that they were there, and just in the flick of the moment, they remembered it. And that's enough. That's enough to make your day, to make their day. And you know, as diversional therapist, you've set yourself a goal, you've got your continuous improvement, and by so doing, you are getting satisfaction for yourself and knowing that what you've done here is a step-by-step prompting them, getting them to interact, engaging them, and making them, at the end of the day, happy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
In fact, we did a lot more filming for the Armchair Travels DVD than we actually used. And we've got a couple of priceless clips that I don't know whether we've got time to show them to you. But there's one lady there. Was that Carmel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And look, we had 6 cameras running, and I'm not a cameraman, but I was charged with looking after one of the static cameras that was focused on Barry's hands on the key. And Colette came over all excited and says, "Look at Carmel. I've never seen her like that before." And so I swung the camera around, and we actually captured. Now, she wasn't singing, but you could see she was into the music. Now, she had quite advanced Alzheimer's.
Oh, yes.
And you can see her clapping to the music. Not only that, she was clapping to every second beat within the music, which shows you she was right into that music.
And again, with Carmel, I had the experience of that music from your list there, the Ash Grove,
Yes.
which is a very, very old music. I think from the 1800s. If you look
Yeah.
back into, we we also have to do our little homework.
Yeah.
I love doing it. I'm still passionate about doing that. I
Yeah.
always like to delve. The more I delve into it, to be able to have the feel with them, to live it with them, and be able to engage in that continuous conversation. So I've read about the Ash Grove, and that's the one song. Carmel, I'll tell you, she was really at that stage where it was very advanced. And she would sit there and listen. But when Ash Grove played, to my surprise, she was the only one in the group who sort of just said that word, Ash Grove.
Yeah.
She
She
tune,
connected with it.
definitely the tune triggered that memory. And you should see her face and her smile. Oh, as I said, that's stayed in my memory.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, see, I rang you a week after that session, and the thing that made a big impression on me at that time in our conversation is that you said to me that Carmel had a spring in her step for 3 days after that
Yes.
experience. What that demonstrated to me is that even though people with Alzheimer's live in the moment, that happy experience caused other parts of her body to work, and those endorphins that flowed through her body to give her that sense of happiness and well-being,
Yes, well-being.
did its job, and it was
Yes.
still there. Now, you and I, when we have a happy experience, and these endorphins are released, and we have that sense of happiness and well-being that lasts for a few days, maybe, we remember why we feel like
Why
that.
we
But
feel like
people
it.
with Alzheimer's, they have no idea. They have the feeling, the happiness and well-being, but they got no idea why they feel like that. And I personally believe it should be part of our care program that we actually provide happy experiences for people with Alzheimer's so that these other parts of the body can actually work and give them that sense of happiness and well-being. It's far better than giving them a pill to settle them down.
I think so too. Now, talking of coming back to the musical armchair travel,
Yeah.
it's theme days. You can be using it for theme days. But last time, because I'm still working at the moment, I keep in touch in aged care and I still work. So now it's been, let's say, it's on my 18th year in aged care, and I'm very privileged to be with them. I love my residents. I've still got that passion for the music. And the last time I had a happy hour. You would not think that the musical armchair travel, you are thinking, oh, I'll use it only for armchair travel. But guess what? At a happy hour, you think, oh, what a terrible day. It's so cold out there. And you start by telling them, oh, look at that. We just want a bit of sun. What about through that hour, we go on a cruise? And there you go. You've got all the songs from the islands in that package. And you can use the songs as a prompt to go through your happy hour to visit some islands. Use some props. Your hat, the straw hat. Bring a lei. Is it a lei?
Yep.
Yes, bring a lei. Bring 2 coconuts and have them song. Have a bunch of coconuts. You know about this song. Make it funny. Have even a bottle of rum, though no one will drink it. I did bring a bottle of rum, Mauritian rum, mind you, very nice, but there was water in the bottle. But I just pretend I had my bottle of rum. So all this contributes to making the hour. So happy hour were the islands. And when you look through it, you will see that there's quite a good selection on in America. So how did I think about the American one? Well, again, the residents went through all the songs, through the musicals. So I pick up these songs from the musicals. And so I made a journey with all the songs, like the waltz, the Tennessee Waltz, the Pennsylvania Polka. So I've picked up all the names of places, the hills of Dakota. So you can do a journey through America. Now, next month is American Day. There you go. This is where that kind of material comes just at hand. You don't have to go and really think, oh, what am I going to do? Where do I start, or what can I do? There you go. You've got it all in there. And it gives you a guideline. I like to use it as a guideline because with your imagination and creative skills, you can add to it other songs. We went from Louisiana to Dakota to Tennessee to all these places that have got a song by its name of the place or a song attached to a musical, and that was popular. So you can use the American one too for those days. If ever something happens in America, we have a new president, or you want to make it a day, there you go again. You can use it. When it comes to now, if you want to be in Australia, very often we visit Australia. I've also got the Australian one. And mind you, the Australian one, I would have no clue if it was not for the Australian residents who told me all about their caravanning and holidays around Australia. So we've got that too. So this, I think, I've done it from the bottom of my heart to help lifestyle and leisure, because I do know, and I have met through different conferences, many lifestyle and leisure people who are now in Australia, very, very enthusiastic about working with clients in aged care, but struggling with finding the music that connects with them, that are appropriate, and that will just give you an insight. I do agree with the new technology. We've got many other outlets, but you use this as a basic. Let's say, I'll give you one simple example. From Calamity Jane, you've got a song, and it's in there. It's in that journey in America, or as you say, from Hills of Dakota. But you've got the YouTube. You've got also the picture of it, or from Oklahoma. So you can start with this, prompt them, tease the music from here on the CD, and then okay, now we're going to look at an actual 3 minutes of the song during the movie, so you can follow it up. So I think, ladies, that is from me. It's like a gift to everyone who decides to use the armchair travels, and to the lifestyle coordinators. If you've got lifestyle, of course, you have lifestyle assistants too. Can be very, very useful as a tool. If you're not coming to work and they want to do an armchair travel, there you go. You can leave that with them and tell them to go through it, read it, get ready, see what's in there, and go from there and have an activity. So everyone can do it, after all, with that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Colette. The whole object of the exercise with our work is to produce the tools that support the work that you do.
Yes, of course.
And we're very focused on making them quality tools, easy for you to work, and they'll take a lot of heavy work. They're very durable, and they'll last a long time.
Oh, yes, and you can do so many things with it.
With it, yep.
Be creative with your material. That's what I'm saying. I'm always focusing on that, telling you that it's a guideline. It's not set in concrete.
No.
It's just a guideline.
Yep.
You do what you want with it. Be creative. Use the music. Have a bit of history behind it. Look at the story behind the songs. Tell the story, the movies, the year, the costumes. You can go from there to such a large sort of vision of what you want to do in lifestyle and leisure, but keeping in mind the goal, the purpose, the continuous improvement, and especially the goals you want to achieve with your residents. That's why you tease these ideas for them. That's why you sort of interact that way with them. It's all about getting them involved and interested. And you know what? At the end of it all, they'll say, it's already oh, it's already 3 o'clock. Oh, it's already finished. Oh, we wish we could have more. And
absolutely.
that's such a good feeling.
Yes. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
Absolutely amazing. And I'm sure our audience have enjoyed every minute of your presentation today. So thank you again,
Thank you very much,
Graeme.
everybody.
Yeah, thank you for your time and for giving us the opportunity to present to you.
Okay.
And I'd like to specifically thank Orchidia and the board for inviting us to do this presentation today, giving us the opportunity to present. And we'll look forward to joining you next year at Invercargill. Colette will be joining me, and she'll be doing what she was going to do this year. She'll be running some workshops with you to show you and demonstrate to you how this musical armchair travels work. So anyway, thank you for your time and for your attention, and we'll look forward to meeting you next year, and enjoy that beautiful, warm New Zealand hospitality that I enjoyed back in 2019. I am so disappointed we couldn't be there in person this year, but God willing, next year. We'll see you all there. Bye.
Bye.
Hi. Are you looking for music that has meaningful engagement with your residents? Then, look no further, for we have professionally recorded a massive 668 tunes for you that are tailored to meet specific musical needs in residential aged care. Just imagine having these stunning quality music-based resources in your activities toolkit. This vast collection of music will save you a lot of session preparation time. All music in this collection is age appropriate. With this collection, you'll have music for any occasion at your fingertips. This is what Layla, a music therapist from Brisbane, Australia, had to say about these music resources. I have been using the Red and Blue Book recordings for the last couple of months, and highly recommend them. I am a music therapist in a high-care dementia ward. The backings are great, easy for the residents to follow, and well recorded. They are better than the ones I had been using from iTunes. The CDs are really good value for the amount of music and quality. I have just bought the green CDs for our younger residents, and look forward to using them. On a planning side, it's lovely to have so much music at my fingertips that match the lyric book, so I can pick music that has specific meaning to each person I am with. Thank you for offering such high-quality resources. Thank you for visiting our website and taking the time to view this presentation. Please don't hesitate to give Graeme a call on 1300 971 647 to discuss your music needs, where he will do his best to tailor a package that will best meet your music requirements.